Tonight, Donald Trump backtracks on threats to escalate the Middle East war, but Iran labels his claims of peace talks fake news. And the supply shock spreads as supermarkets, delivery companies and airlines lift prices. Hello, I'm Guy Stayner. This is ABC News. Also tonight, Northwest state schools close as teachers join other state service workers on strike. Northern Tasmanian businesses hope a new owner will secure the future of the local manganese smelter. And farmers describe Australia's EU free trade deal as the worst ever. US President Donald Trump has talked up the prospect of peace and oil flowing through the Strait of Hormuz after declaring Iran was willing to engage in talks to end the war. After giving Tehran an ultimatum on oil, President Trump backed down at the 11th hour, claiming very good and productive conversations were taking place. Markets rallied on the news and the price of oil dipped despite Iran denying talks were taking place at all. We'll have the latest on what our government is doing to shore up fuel supply shortly, but we start our coverage tonight with Catherine Diss in the Middle East.
An unbelievable rescue. Red Crescent workers find a man completely buried in the rubble of a building in Tehran. Somehow, he's still alive. But the human toll of US-Israeli airstrikes is becoming starker on the ground.
We are looking for him, and we don't know if he's alive or not. Maybe he's dead or I don't know where he is.
Oh, that came out good.
Taking a short detour from the war, Donald Trump visited Elvis Presley's Graceland.
You never know, these are hard to sign.
He earlier claimed he'd been in touch with someone senior in the Iranian regime for talks and announced a 5-day reprieve for Tehran to completely reopen the Strait of Hormuz or face attacks on its power plants.
They want very much to make a deal. We'd like to make a deal too. We're going to get together today. If it goes well, we're going to end up with settling this. Otherwise, we'll just keep bombing our little hearts out.
We, the UK, were aware that was happening, and the immediate priority has to be a swift resolution of the conflict.
But the Speaker of Iran's parliament immediately denied the talks. No negotiations have been held with the US, he says, accusing Trump of trying to manipulate the financial and oil markets and escape the quagmire in which the US and Israel are trapped. Traders who coined the term taco, Trump always chickens out, seeming to welcome news of the president's backdown. While the US talks, Israel fights on.
President Trump believes there is a chance to leverage the significant achievements of the IDF and the US military. At the same time, we continue to strike both in Iran and in Lebanon.
But those living this war are losing patience with Mr. Trump's negotiation tactics.
If we trust him, we lose. He has shown what his brotherhood means. He burned everything, the good and the bad, together.
I doubt there will be any real negotiations between these governments. As for what comes next, I do not know.
While leaders talk, citizens are paying the price.
And Catherine Diss joins us now from Jerusalem. Catherine, President Trump's claims of productive talks to end the war have been denied by Tehran. What signs are there that talks could be on the way?
Good evening, Guy. Well, look, I think the US President Donald Trump's claim of a deal is a stretch. These talks are still very much in their early stages. There is also jostling over who will run them, with Pakistan interestingly emerging as a key frontrunner alongside Egypt and Turkey. I think that Donald Trump played a game of chicken here. When Iran didn't back down, he blinked first. He also has to consider his partner in this, Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has vowed to keep fighting until the regime is toppled or at least significantly damaged or weakened, rather. So this could well be a political play by the US president, but reading between the lines, this looks to be a win for Tehran.
Catherine Diss in Jerusalem, thank you. At home, Australia's Energy Minister says at least 500 petrol stations are without fuel tonight, announcing new measures to get more diesel to pumps across the nation. The supply squeeze is driving up costs across the economy, hitting farmers, truck drivers and now Australia Post, with price hikes coming for mail and parcels.
Counting his costs in kilometres. Frank Black's last journey from Brisbane to Sydney emptied more than his fuel tank.
If your fuel has gone up $1 a litre, you're $500 worse off.
And that's one day's work, forcing truckies to rethink which contracts they accept.
I can't drive up and down the road losing money.
The fuel prices are just crippling. It's just unbelievable. Sorry, I might get a little emotional.
Those costs rippling through the economy. Supermarkets, airlines and delivery companies hiking their fees. Australia Post, the latest, doubling shipping charges.
We know that increased petrol prices put pressure on Australians.
The sudden spike in prices leading to localised shortages. And across the country, hundreds of service stations are running dry. 215 in New South Wales without either unleaded or diesel, 185 in Victoria, 80 in Queensland, around 50 in South Australia and a handful elsewhere.
The Minister for Energy's made it clear that she's prepared to take extraordinary measures if she sees a deliberate manipulation of the marketplace.
Dialing up the pressure, the federal opposition's set up a new website for drivers to report where fuel shortages are.
We have launched this in an effort to help us, Chris Bowen, help you.
The nation's fuel coordinator, Anthea Harris, to hold her first meeting with states tomorrow as the Energy Minister intervenes again, this time adjusting diesel standards to boost supplies.
Because we continue to see shortages in diesel, despite the fact our national stocks are strong.
While the government's focus is on supply, leaders have started openly canvassing the possibility of measures to manage demand. Rationing is still a more distant prospect, but the states and territories have agreed to move together if it gets to that point. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
Petrol prices have reached a record high, approaching an average of $2.50 a litre tonight. And there could be more pain to come if the source of most of Australia's fuel diverts deliveries for local use. Here's business reporter Daniel Ziffer.
We've got enough fuel for now, but there are big questions about our fuel security in the coming months. Australia imports 90% of the fuel we use. Most of it comes from Asia, with South Korea, Singapore and India our biggest suppliers of refined fuels, including petrol, diesel and jet fuel. While most of the crude oil that's still refined in Australia comes from Malaysia and Brunei. But those countries have their own demands.
The entire global economy has been taken hostage, and we will all pay a price for the hostilities.
China and South Korea have already started curbing the export of refined fuel products to keep more of it for their own citizens. Malaysia says it might as well.
When a government sees a threat to the availability of domestic supplies, it's not surprising to see these constraints implemented.
Energy Minister Chris Bowen has said only 6 fuel shipments to Australia, due after mid-April, have been cancelled or deferred. That's out of an average of 81 per month. But the conflict has taken out about 1 in 5 barrels of oil from global supply. And the longer that continues, the more expensive things get. Australia can afford to compete by paying higher prices. Poorer countries have fewer choices.
Australia has a really strong track record around that, delivering into contracts, and I think that holds our stance within the global energy markets in a fairly high level.
Another point of leverage is liquefied natural gas. We produce far more than we use. We're among the largest exporters in the world. Some of the countries that send us fuel need our LNG, so there could be some hard bargains to be driven.
To the day's other news, and public schools were closed in Tasmania's northwest today, and other state government services were also affected as state workers, including teachers, started rolling 24-hour strikes. Unions say their members deserve better pay and more support to cope with increasing workloads. But the Deputy Premier has accused them of trying to hurt the Education Minister's re-election campaign.
Public sector workers banded together in Tasmania's northwest today, walking out of hospitals, offices, national parks and state schools, which were closed in the region.
In parks, we're expected to do it all.
Stop treating us like a cost and start treating us like an investment.
The same strikes will happen in the north tomorrow and the south on Thursday.
Who's got the power?
We've got the power!
We actually want to look at the workload and say what can be done to actually fix this. We also want to make sure the Violence in Schools initiatives are rolled out.
We are saying to Minister Palmer, enough is enough.
The heat was on the Education Minister inside Parliament too this morning.
Minister, how did you let this situation deteriorate?
The second offer that we have put to the unions is absolutely addressing all the issues.
The heat also on Guy Barnett, after he suggested yesterday the strikes were
part of a political strategy, with the Education Minister up for election in May.
Pressed on his comments, Joe Palmer played a straight bat.
I'm going to leave any sort of commentary around that.
The Deputy Premier doubling down.
I think it's a very understandable conclusion.
The state government says if its latest offer of 3% rises for 2 years, followed by a 2.75% rise, isn't accepted by next Tuesday, then any potential back pay will be off the table, giving workers an ultimatum. Josh Duggan, ABC News.
Meanwhile, Victorian public school teachers have gone on strike for the first time in more than a decade after months of failed pay negotiations with their state government. Up to 35,000 educators marched through Melbourne towards state parliament a week after the Australian Education Union rejected a 17% pay deal over 4 years. Union members claim Victorian teachers are paid less than those in other states and have called for a 35% rise. Organisers say hundreds of schools were affected by today's industrial action and have threatened to take to the streets again if the government doesn't revisit its offer.
They do need to put a real deal on the table that meets our needs, that respects us and absolutely respects the students that we educate.
This is a very strong offer. We did everything we can to avoid today. We did everything we can to get the offer on the table as soon as possible.
Australia has signed a new free trade pact with Europe after 8 long years of negotiations. But the deal has drawn fire from farmers who are furious they haven't secured better access for agricultural exports. Here's Foreign Affairs reporter Stephen Jedgetts.
A new deal in a world transformed. The European Union chief landing in Canberra to deliver a grim message.
The world we live in is brutal, harsh and unforgiving. It feels upside down.
Faced with war in Ukraine and the Middle East and grappling with Donald Trump, Europe wants more partners, even in far-away Australia. The two sides finally landing a long-awaited trade pact after almost a decade of negotiations.
Countries are longing for stability and predictability, and this is what the European Union is offering.
This agreement sent a message as well to the world that it is possible to stick to the rules.
The deal will allow Australian farmers to largely keep using labels claimed by European producers like Prosecco and Feta. Luxury European EVs will also be cheaper. The pact opening up new export opportunities and cutting the price of imports.
This agreement is worth $10 billion to the Australian economy on an annual basis.
But some economists question that figure, while farmers are furious the government's given way without securing new concessions to get more Australian beef and lamb into Europe.
It really is a very minor number, which is frustrating.
This deal must go down as the worst trade deal ever.
It's not just trade. Australia's also preparing to join a massive European research and development fund, while Canberra and Brussels have struck a new security partnership which will likely foster more industrial collaboration in defence projects. With the world in flux, both sides increasingly see the relationship not just as a luxury, but as a necessity. Stephen Jedgetts, ABC News, Canberra.
Businesses that rely on Liberty Bell Bay in northern Tasmania hope a new owner can be found quickly. The manganese smelter was put into administration yesterday with the future of more than 200 direct jobs and a large local supply chain at stake.
Damien Eade runs a cafe in Georgetown and says the ongoing uncertainty surrounding Liberty Bell Bay has taken a toll on the local community.
It's been a scary process for the last few months. The lack of knowledge or where it's going.
But Monday's announcement that the manganese smelter has been placed in voluntary administration has delivered new hope.
At least this gives a bit more clarity going forward, and hopefully a positive outcome comes from all this.
The business is now in the hands of administrator Ernst & Young, which is trying to find a new buyer to resume operations at the facility. The local mayor says more than 200 jobs are at stake.
For our community and for the economy of the North, having that facility remain operable, I think, is very much in our interests.
The smelter has been in care and maintenance mode since May last year, despite a $20 million loan from the state government for a shipment of ore that was never used. The industry minister is confident Tasmanian taxpayers won't have to bear the cost.
We can either, of course, sell the ore for roughly about the value of which it was purchased, being a tradable commodity on the open market. But we also retain the option of being able to sell it to new owners who might be interested in a quick restart.
Liberty Bell Bay is Australia's only manganese smelter. Its product is essential for steelmaking. Stakeholders say it's in the national interest for the facility to resume full production.
Really important that both the federal and state governments do everything they can to make sure that we keep this sovereign capability in Tasmania.
A community hoping for a more certain future. Kelsey Reid, ABC News, Bell Bay.
In the toughest laws of their kind in the country, Queensland is banning under-16s from riding e-scooters and e-bikes. All riders will need at least a learner's licence. Those breaking the rules face fines of several $100s.
Getting a handle on dangerous behaviour.
Because it seems to be a pretty wild west at the moment with scooters.
We know there is considerable community concern.
The major crackdown includes banning under-16s, requiring all riders to at least have a learner licence and making it mandatory to be medically fit.
It should be licensed and then helmet should be a must thing.
If you're going to be driving on the actual roads, you need to understand the road laws and the road rules.
But some are worried about the changes. Ben Fallon has epilepsy and was previously medically unfit to drive and became reliant on his e-bike. His kids are also avid riders.
It makes me nervous because it would heavily impact our day-to-day lives. It would impact our holidays where we go bikepacking and we have to take a lot of equipment.
While he's got his licence back, he fears he could lose it again if he fails future medical tests.
Well, the e-bike is kind of like my main car. It does the grocery shopping, takes the kids around, takes me into the city to appointments.
I acknowledge that will disadvantage some people who currently use these devices and are unable to drive.
Doctors back age restrictions.
We have seen a significant number of injuries and tragically deaths.
Other reforms include random breath tests for riders, giving police the power to destroy illegal devices and cutting footpath speeds to 10 kilometres an hour.
Parents will be held accountable for the actions of their children.
Some level of onus needs to be put on parents. These laws are the toughest in the country and they come with hefty on-the-spot fines, including $500 for not having a licence or riding an e-device while under the age of 16.
This government response will strike the right balance between safety and allowing new forms of mobility.
Jack Mackay, ABC News, Brisbane.
At least 66 people have been killed after a military transport plane crashed in Colombia. The Hercules C-130 came down moments after taking off at an airport near Colombia's southern border with Peru. 121 people were on board, mostly soldiers, with dozens left injured. 2 Colombian Air Force planes were rushed to the area to evacuate wounded troops to hospitals in the country's capital, Bogotá. Officials have launched an investigation into the crash. US investigators say they want to interview an air traffic controller who was juggling another emergency at the time an Air Canada jet collided with a fire truck. Video shows the moments leading up to the collision that killed 2 pilots at New York's LaGuardia Airport. About 40 passengers and crew were taken to hospital, some with serious injuries. Before the collision, an air traffic controller can be heard on airport communications frantically telling the fire truck to stop. Roughly 20 minutes later, the controller appears to blame himself.
That wasn't good to watch.
Yeah, I know I was here. I tried to reach out to my staff, and we were dealing with an emergency earlier. I messed up.
No, man, you did the best you could.
To finance, and the local share market rose today, in line with markets around the world, in the wake of President Trump's post that talks are underway to end the war in Iran. Here's Alan Kohler.
As we know, President Trump posted at 7:23 a.m. Washington time that they've had very good and productive talks with Iran, and that a few hours later, Iran said that's not true. The US share market jumped when Trump did that post and then fell a third of the way back when Iran rubbished it. And likewise, the oil price fell sharply and only went up part of the way again. So what that tells you, I think, is that the markets really want it to be over, which is no surprise, and are prepared to grasp at any straw and hang on to it. A couple of other straws in the wind today, as it were. First, investment bank Goldman Sachs put out a new oil price forecast based on traffic through the Straits of Hormuz staying at 5% of normal levels for 6 weeks, followed by a 1-month recovery. The result is on this graph. It peaks at $115 a barrel, but if it stays at 5% for 10 weeks, the peak is $147. Second, one of the world's most highly regarded investment strategists, Marco Papic of BCA Research, said if this doesn't get resolved over the next 7 to 10 days, we're looking at a pandemic-style shutdown of the global economy, which perhaps explains why markets are in the Egyptian river, denial. That's not something anyone wants to think about. The local market demonstrated that by rising 0.5%, with mining stocks leading the way. The oil price ended up around 4% higher, while gold and silver kept falling. The US and Asian markets stayed up, and the Aussie dollar stayed under 70 US cents. And finally, Macquarie Research produced a report today about the impact of AI on bank employment, looking at how good it'll be for cost-cutting and higher profits. The most likely base case, according to Macquarie, is 18% reduction in jobs, gradual adoption 9% and rapid adoption 30%. Now, there are 185,000 people employed by the banks. 18% of them is 33,000 and 30% is 56,000 people. But of course, Macquarie could be wrong. And that's finance.
Coming up on 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson, the computer program deciding the fate of elderly Australians.
Mum does need supervision pretty much constantly. It just astounds me that somebody can then be found to have no impairment.
My concern is really because there can be no human oversight of the outcome.
It's the same thing as what was happening with Robo-Debt.
To sport, and a maiden T20 international century from Georgia Vole has helped Australia complete a clean sweep of the 3-game series against the West Indies. The opener hit 6 sixes in her innings, making 101 off just 53 balls, as Australia posted 7 for 211. T20 debutant Lucy Hamilton took a wicket as the tourists won a rain-affected match by 40 runs under the DLS method.
We made a really, considered effort tonight to go out there and play with a sense of freedom, I suppose, and see what we're capable of. And to get over 200, I suppose that's really pleasing for the whole group, that's for sure.
8 players have now suffered hamstring injuries during round 2 of the AFL, amid suggestions the pace of the game could be to blame. West Coast has confirmed Milan Murdoch is the latest to fall victim, as several clubs deal with the fallout from the weekend.
A power win sapped by an injury loss.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts. He's a captain of the footy club.
Connor Rosey will need surgery for a high-grade rupture to his hamstring tendon and will likely miss most of the season.
It's disappointing and sad for us, but we'll kind of have to move on.
Despite playing out Sunday's win, scans later revealed Milan Murdoch has suffered a hamstring strain. The rookie became the 8th player from 7 games to injure their hamstring in round 2. It's raised questions over the speed of the game and the ability of players to adapt to new rule changes this season.
Some may say it's too fast, some may think it's too slow, but you know, us as players, you know, it's our job to get fit and play, and then if you get injured, it's all part of it.
It's not only injuries Essendon has to contend with. After another thrashing, Captain Andrew McGrath called a players-only meeting.
Us leaders, we spoke about, OK, this is on us. The basic fundamentals of football, handballs, kicks, pressure, that wasn't there on the day, and that's something that's in our control. So it was all about us taking ownership of our performance.
Patrick Voss has taken some ownership for this sledge on Saturday, according to Fremantle. The Dockers have thrown their support behind the energetic Voss, who's been criticised for taunting Melbourne's Harrison Petty.
Obviously there's stuff going around about him, but I think he's pretty remorse about it, and you know, we like him playing how he is, and we know he can get a bit fiery, but you know, at the end of the day, it's just a game of football.
A game that can get personal. Tom Maddox, ABC News.
Socceroos captain Matt Ryan says competition for spots in the national team is bringing out the best in players ahead of this year's World Cup. The Socceroos are in Sydney preparing for a game against Cameroon on Friday before taking on Curaçao in Melbourne next week. The 2 friendlies are the last the team will play before heading to the United States for the World Cup in June. Ryan says the Socceroos coach, Tony Popovich, sets a high standard by selecting players on form, not reputation.
Every opportunity I get, try and make the most of, and that's what the jersey and the badge in our country deserves. And yeah, you've got to be playing at your best level to warrant being selected every time you get to take that field.
To the weather, and tonight's photo of a misty morning sunrise at Irish Town in the northwest is from someone with an equally Irish name, Barb Joyce. The northeast was certainly the last place to feel the change today. 25 degrees topped the state at Flinders Island. St Helens had 22. It reached 20 in both Launceston and Devonport, just 17 degrees in Hobart. Significant overnight rain about the south with 25 millimetres at Dover. There was 9 in Hobart to 9 a.m, but the showers continued throughout the day. Hobart's had a total of 17 millimetres so far, 11 on King Island. The satellite image shows that rain band passing over the state as a front with this colder air approaches from the southwest. That's due to arrive on Thursday. Tomorrow, another trough will cross the state in the afternoon and will likely bring a few more showers. Across the country tomorrow, storms likely in Melbourne and Darwin, a possible shower in Adelaide and Canberra, fine and very warm in Sydney, Brisbane and Perth. Back home, there'll be morning showers about the north and west, extending statewide during the day and will be more frequent in the west. Possible afternoon thunderstorms about central and eastern parts. Most places are likely to get a few millimetres, but it should be less than 1 millimetre in Hobart and along the east coast. Up to 9 millimetres about the west and northwest, up to 5 for Burnie and 6 in Devonport. 1 to 5 millimetres in Launceston tomorrow, a top of 24 after a low of 15. And Hobart has a medium chance of a late shower, a top of 25 degrees after a low of 14. Sunrise tomorrow will be at 17 minutes past 7. On coastal waters, there'll be north to northwesterly winds of 10 to 20 knots, tending west to southwesterly tomorrow night. There are no warnings. Thursday, there'll be showers about most districts, more frequent in the west and south. Friday, showers again across most districts, although remaining mostly dry about the north. And looking ahead, it will be mostly fine and warmer on Saturday, and warmer again on Sunday and on Monday. And that's the program. But before I go, I want to let you know the 7 p.m. news will look a little different tomorrow night because my colleagues and I will be on strike. We're asking ABC management to deliver secure, safe and sustainable jobs so we can deliver the news and content you deserve. I'll see you Thursday.